Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, Designs by Dana. I'm Dana, and as you can see here today, I am using this really fun Take to the Sky Designer Series paper with Stampin Up. So this is a really fun, you can see kind of an airplane travel themed paper packet, and this one here comes with a kind of a cut apart picture my life, or you could just call them pocket scrapbooking cards. And down here we have several different tags, and if you know me, I love to use tags in my scrapbooking, so I think I'm definitely going to be using some of these in my project today. Now on the opposite side of this sheet we have this really nice map pattern as well. I don't know if I'm going to use it yet, but you can see how each of these have, of course, the multiple sides. So going through these, you can see some of these are not really focused on the travel, so they're very versatile and you can be used for a lot of different projects. And I really like that with some of these. So if you have scraps or leftovers, you could certainly use them for other things in your paper crafting stash as well. And this one here has got a really nice kind of a land view map, which is really fun, and just lots of versatility in all of these beautiful patterns and papers. Then I'm also going to bring in the coordinating stamp set that is the Adventurous Sky and also the Adventurous Sky dies. Now this is a cling stamp. You'll notice that in the details of the stamp, it's got a lot of line work and detail, and I find that most of the Stampin' Up artwork that has the detail will typically be a cling style stamp. And then of course I have the coordinating die that goes with this stamp set as well, and I've purchased the magnet sheets in the envelope here on Amazon, and I'll put the link to those down in my description as well. And I like to store everything together so it's easy to find for me. So I've got everything here stored. And let me show you where you can find this product suite in the current annual catalog. So this is called the Take to the Sky Suite Collection, but you can also buy everything individually, and it's got the individual item numbers down here below. And this page shows you, this is 36 and 37 in the book, the stamp set, the dies. There's also some embellishments here, and I'll probably be pulling those in as well. And then here's your nice, beautiful paper suite. Here's some great artwork. This artwork doesn't show any scrapbook pages, so hopefully today I can inspire you to use this in a scrapbook theme as well. So let's pull in my photos and what I want to do with this. I'm going to kind of scoot this over here to the side and bring in some photos. So I'm going to first give a disclosure that I did not take any of these photos. My son, who is in the Air Force Reserves, we live here in Kansas City, which is in, right in the central part of the country. And we're very close to Whiteman Air Force Base, if you've ever heard of that. Whiteman Air Force Base houses all of the B-2 bombers for the United States. So he does his, I guess you could say his reserve duty out of Whiteman Air Force Base. And his job there is to actually load and unload the bombs on the bombers. And in August of last year, Whiteman did an exercise, and I'm probably not going to use all the right terminology, so you'll have to forgive me for that, for my ignorance there. But they did a deployment last year, and my son was part of that exercise to send troops to Iceland. And you may recall a couple weeks ago I did a layout with pictures of him in Iceland as a result of this deployment, and they took the bombers over to Iceland for some exercises. So what I have here is pictures of, this is the gentlemen and women that went on this trip in front of one of the B2s, and they're just massive stealth bombers. And we're very fortunate to live where we live because you may know, you may be familiar with Kansas City Chiefs and a lot of our sporting events. So the bombers will do a lot of flyovers at a lot of events. And when you see these things do flyovers, they are incredible. So I have this photo. I'm going to hold it up as close as I can. This was on my son Nick's Facebook page. And you can see that you can just barely see these guys. So I was really proud that by zooming in on this photo, I figured out what I thought, what I thought was him. And I guessed that he was 3 rows in and 3 people back, 3 or 4 back here. So we had lunch this past weekend and I was asking him about it. And sure enough, I was able to identify him by the top of his head. So a mother knows her son, even if it's just the top of the head. So I was pretty excited about that. But anyway, back to this trip. So all of this information did come from the Whiteman Air Force Base website or their Facebook page. So I'm not sharing anything here that's confidential. So what I did is I went to their Facebook page, and this is their post from August 14, 2023, and it talks about this mission. So it says that the B-2 Spirit bombers landed in Iceland, and in support of the Bomber Task Force Europe 23-4, 3 B-2 Spirits will operate out of, I'm going to hopefully pronounce this correctly, Keflavik Air Base to serve as a link between the U.S. Air Force and our NATO counterparts. The Bomber Task Force will facilitate collaborative training to increase interoperability and underscore our dedication to the region. And it gives links to some more information. So I'm going to use this as my journaling piece. And I think it may look something like this. And then these photos I have over here, and I really wanted some pictures of them in flight. So I pulled these off of their Facebook page as well. And then a couple more little close-up pictures. So I think I'm going to use all of these. I may change my mind as I get more into the design of the layout, but this is what I'm thinking so far. And I also, you know, when you click on these links, you can access some detailed articles about this mission. So this is the first one that was published on August 14th, kind of about the mission. There was over 150 airmen that were sent to support 3 of the B-2 aircraft. And then this one is about when they came back. So they were gone for about a month. So this was published on September 14th. And it talks about last month, you know, and then it goes into the details of what they accomplished. So somehow in the design of this layout, I want to be able to incorporate some pockets or some places that I can either fold these up or tuck these into the layout somehow to capture this documentation, because I think it will be important for my grandchildren and grandchildren's grandchildren someday to have this, because wouldn't it be neat if we had documents from our ancestors and their military missions? So I thought it would be really cool to have this documented. So that's my goal for this particular layout, because I think this layout would be kind of the beginning pages of the series of this trip for him. So I'm going to get this out of the way, and then we'll come back and work on kind of really designing and building out this layout and how I want it to look like. So let's kind of remove all of this and get it out of the way, and then we'll start cutting some paper and really thinking about how we want to build out the page. Okay, since this is going to be a double page layout, I brought in my Versamats, and I'm using some of my old stash cardstock to use as my base pages, because this is going to all be covered up. So I decided that I want each of my base pages or each of my layouts to be a pocket page. So the whole layout is going to be a pocket page. And what I'm going to do is use each page to use as a pocket to put each one of these articles that I've preserved into the pocket of the layout. So I've put them into page protectors here. And what I've done is I used this one and I trimmed just about 1/4 inch off the top of the page protector. And so I'll show you kind of what I did with this one. So you can see I've trimmed it down here. And I'm going to bring in my scissors and just also trim down the top of that page protector. And they're very easy to cut. And these are just page protectors that I got from the office supplies store. I could have used my 8.5 by 11 album protectors, but I really wanted to preserve those. So I went a less expensive route. And here you can see I'm cutting off the 3-hole punch side because I really don't need that in the scrapbook. So I'm just kind of cleaning this up so that I can make it look a little bit nicer for the scrapbook. And then I'm just going to trim off this bottom edge also. So I'm trimming it right up to that line that I want to say scores, but that's not the right word, that fuses the two pieces together. So it just kind of cleans that up. And then I have this nice protected piece that will preserve this article. This is open, and I may come in with some score tape and seal this off. I haven't decided yet, but what I'm thinking I might do is bring in one of my close to my heart die cuts, this tabs, and I'm thinking I might use this one here and create a little pull tab so that those articles can be pulled out. And since they're in page protectors, then they will be preserved. So I'm going to think about how I want to do those pull tabs and what paper I want to use for those. So keeping in mind that I'm going to put another piece of paper on top of this and build out kind of that pocket page, I'm just going to kind of position those here at the top, and I'll need to put some kind of a tape or something here so that they don't sink too far down into the layout. So I will be putting a piece of pattern paper, you know, about 1 inch, 1.5 inches down. And then what I want to do, obviously I'll have to use a piece of cardstock. So I cut this at 11 by 12 just to give myself a visual of where I want to put this and then build it out. So I wanted to use this nice gray. It makes me think of like metal or the side of what the airplane might look like. So I wanted to use that kind of as the base. So I'm going to kind of lay that down just to get an idea of what this might look like. So this is kind of how I'm envisioning this to look. And then I went ahead and matted all of the photos onto cardstock. So the cardstock color of this would be the copper clay, but I am using up my Close to My Heart stash. So this is cinnamon cardstock in the Close to My Heart colors. So this will look something like this, is kind of my vision. And then I may add some of my own personal journaling down here. So with the colors that I have in this packet, I have this color or this pattern, and then on the back I've got these airplanes here. And I didn't really think I would want to use this pattern as much, so I'm going to focus more on this side. And then I also wanted to use this pattern, but I really like this blue, so I didn't want to use up as much of it because I might want to use that on another project. So what I wanted to do is bring this in and kind of bring this over maybe about 8 inches or so, about to there. So I'm thinking perhaps cutting maybe an 8 by 8 square on that, and then bringing this piece in from this side and just having a little bit of overlap like this. And maybe coming in about 8 inches from this side, but obviously a little bit smaller gap. So perhaps if this is 8 inch, then I might bring this into about 6 inches. So that's what I'm thinking about doing here. And because this is, I'm thinking military, I'm thinking uniformity, nice crisp edges, but then I'm also thinking I might do some paper tearing, because I'm thinking about tearing this across the top. But I may leave it straight, I'm not sure. But I'm thinking that what I do on this side, I kind of want to emulate on this side to keep some consistency. So I'm going to cut these down, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side and just carry it over here. So I'm going to cut these down. I think I'm going to cut this to about 8 by 8, and I think I'm going to cut this about 6 by 8, and then carry that pattern over here. And then we'll see what that looks like and decide if I want to do the paper tearing and how I want to build this pocket up here. So that's what we're going to do. I did ink the edges of these pieces, so I'm going to go ahead and ink these as well. And then this is the little sample airplane that I cut the die cuts with, and I just used scrap paper to give myself an idea of how it comes together and the sizing and positioning of that. So I know I want to put one here, but we'll see once I get this laid out how many more of these I want to cut and what papers and colors I want to cut those in, because I think I'll have some room over here as well. And also I'll need to think about the title for this, because this is going to be the first layout in the series of layouts from this trip. So I definitely want to have a nice title for this layout, and think about what I want to do for my title for that. But let me get these cut down, and then we'll see kind of what we're looking like. Okay, so I've got all of my papers inked up, and I've decided that I'm not going to do the paper tearing on this layout, because I do like the crisp lines with kind of the theme of the layout. You can see I've added some pull tabs to these articles here, and it slides in to the back of this page quite nicely. And I've got this side secured down. I don't have the pictures down because I wanted to show you what I did behind these pieces. So instead of using the two base pages here, I was able to trim these down to save paper, because we're all about being frugal and preserving as much of our paper as we can, right? So I used one sheet and I cut it down in 3-inch strips. So by doing that, I was able to use one piece of this gray designer series paper instead of using two. So I got to save a whole sheet of paper by doing that. So then I can just pull in these pieces and cover that up. Now this side, these are glued down, but I think the next step is to kind of show you how we're going to, I'm going to move these photos out of the way. I'm going to show you how we're going to build up this pocket, because if I just glue this down, I'm not going to have a lot of room to pull out this little article. So I want to create a little bit of a shim or build up here. So I could bring in some foam tape or the Dimensionals, but because I've got such a large space, I wanted to kind of preserve my foam tape. So what I decided to do is just use the same cardstock here that's in my stash, and I'm using it up. So I just cut 3 pieces of that same cardstock, and I can layer it down here, and that's going to give me just enough of a buildup so that I will be able to easily slide my article in and out of that pocket. So I'm going to put that dimension on each side of this document here, And then I can just put some adhesive on the top of these pieces and then come back and glue this right on top. And by doing that, I'm going to get the same effect here, and you can see how easily that just slides in and out. Now, I did decide to use a different tab here. Originally, I was going to use this larger one. I decided to go with a little bit smaller one, and I just stamped the word pull on that with another alphabet stamp that I had in my stash. So this is the Pen Pal alphabet, and it's stamped quite nicely right on top of that pattern paper. Now this pattern paper here is one that I pulled from my Close to My Heart stash. And this is from the Let's Go Anywhere paper packet. And I pulled this out because I thought I would be able to also incorporate some of the stickers into this layout. And as I looked through it, I realized I had some papers that I could use for that as well. So when we go to embellish, we're going to pull in some of those stickers as well. So as I glue the rest of this down and bring in my title, I want to show you what I did for my title. So I brought in my die cuts, and these are the alphabet. This is the block alphabet and the block numbers. One of the reasons I chose this one is because I did have the alphabet and the numbers to coordinate. And I cut quite a few pieces. So I have this on washi tape so I can move it around a little bit. So let me bring in my pictures again. And I kind of had it like this. And I remembered that I have, you know, the little airplane. So I went ahead and cut and put one of those together. And I went ahead and put it on foam tape because, you know, I will probably want that popped up. And I remembered that I have all these tags that I wanted to use as well. And I almost forgot that I wanted to use these. So I pulled out a couple of them, and I was trying to figure out how I could use the tags as a piece to ground my embellishment here. And I just wasn't happy with playing around with this over here. So what I was thinking is I could reverse this layout and change it like that. And then I could maybe put my tags over here and have them come out, stick out of my photo this way. And then I could have a little spot to kind of ground that embellishment. So I think that I might do something like that instead. So you can see here on one tag, I've added some fibers, and I've got some blue fibers that I want to use for this tag. So these came from the Natural Tones linen threads, and they come, I think there's one missing, but they come with different colors here in the Natural Tones. So I've got the copper clay here, and now I've cut a couple pieces of the Night of Navy, and I'm just going to feed that through here and just simply tie that through the hole that I punched on these tags, just to make a nice little grouping of fibers. And you can see that that's definitely going to need to be trimmed down a bit. So let's just kind of trim those down. Now I like to use separate scissors when I'm cutting my ribbon and fibers than I do with my paper. So we'll kind of play around with that a little bit more, but that's more in line with what I'm thinking about for that little airplane there. So I'll play around with those. And then I cut these pieces, and I'm thinking that I might do something like this. So this is the B2 bomber, and it's called, the official name is the B2 Spirit. And then I cut the bombers. Now the title of this says B2 Bombers Land in Iceland, But because that's such a long title, I went with B2 Bombers in Iceland. And I'm thinking that will work sufficiently. And I have another airplane, and I think that I want to put one over here as well. So let me kind of show you. I'm just going to lay my silicone mat right on top of here. And this is how the pieces of the airplane die look once you cut them out. So I'm just going to grab my tweezers here. And when you line this up, you want to be careful because some of the pieces of this do not cover the bottom part. So you don't want to put adhesive on everything. So as I put my glue on this, I'm going to be mindful of where I think that the adhesive needs to be, just because I don't want to have too much excess. So hopefully that makes sense. So that is why I'm bringing in my silicone mat as well, just in case I have any adhesive that squishes out onto my mat, obviously. And my glue will dry clear, so if I have any squishing through here, it'll be fine. So this little propeller, again, it won't completely cover, so I kind of like to have part of it on the airplane and part of it sticking off. So I'm just going to put some adhesive on half of it and then stick that down kind of like that. So then there I've got my airplane, and if you turn it over, you can clearly see that part of it overlaps and doesn't all stick to this base piece, which is the Night of Navy, or in my case, I'm using the Sapphire for the Close to My Heart. So I think I'll put this one on this side. So this is kind of what I'm thinking as I'm auditioning it on the title. And I think moving these photos around here really helps that tie in together better here. And then, like I mentioned, I've got these stickers here, and I'm going to pull some of these out and see if I can't. I'm really interested in this one here as a globe, but I don't think I want the whole thing. So what I might do is bring in some die cuts and see if I can just cut out or even fussy cut around the globe part and eliminate the outer part, and maybe use some of that to ground this airplane on this side. I also am really liking this one here, and maybe some of these other pieces. And of course the arrows and little pieces here will make great embellishments, and even possibly the passports. So I'm going to set that down on this side. And I also wanted to show you the die cuts that came with my Let's Go Anywhere packet, because I think I might pull in some of these as well. So we've got this really nice adventure piece, which would make a good subtitle. I thought I might use it, but I don't really know if I'm going to have room. But again, we've got some nice airplanes, some arrows and stars that I may want to incorporate. So I'm going to think about those and play around with it. But for now, I'm going to speed this up and get some of this put down, get the rest of it glued down, and we'll see what other embellishments we want to put on here. I am thinking that if you guys follow a lot of my videos, I like to have lots of dimensions, so it's going to take me a little bit of time, but I think I want to pop up all of these letters. So it'll take me a little bit of time to get all of those popped up on the foam tape or the dimensionals, and I'm thinking I'd like to have this kind of overlap my photo a little bit. So I might bring these down like that. So I'm going to play around with that, but that's kind of what my thought process is and kind of what I'm thinking about for this one. And we'll get that kind of sped up and put some of that down. Speeding this section up a little bit, but you can see that I'm pulling in that sticker that I did trim down, and I'm using that to ground the airplane over here on the right side. And I brought in my T-ruler to help me line up all of my title pieces. And it did take me a while, but I put a lot of tiny pieces of foam tape behind my title, and I'm going to pop all of that title up. So as I do that and bring in my embellishment pieces, I want to share with you another fun fact about these B2 bombers. So we are located here in Missouri, which is in the heartland of the United States. But these bombers can fly from the middle of Missouri in the United States to anywhere in the world without landing, because they can refuel in the air. So I think that's just another interesting fun fact about the capacity of these bombers. And my son was telling us that the bays that the airplanes open up and can drop the bombs out are about the size of a school bus. So the facts and information that he was sharing with us was just incredible and very interesting, at least to me. So you can see that I'm pulling out my little trinket dish with all the embellishments I pulled out. I'm going to audition them here around the layout, and in the end I do end up moving some of these, but I'm going to lay them out where I think I want them, and I will glue them down off camera and move them around a bit. But this is going to finally wrap up the layout and complete everything to completion. Okay folks, here is the finished layout. I did come back in with a white gel pen and added just a little bit of ink to my title, kind of in a broken, kind of lined border. And I wanted that to be very sketchy, broken, kind of thinking of Iceland and kind of icicle looking lines. So it's very kind of broken, sketchy, not solid detail, but it adds just a little touch of color to that title. And let me hold these up a little closer. You can see some of these clusters. The tags really give that a landing spot and something to ground the little airplanes, which those are just really cute with the die cuts that come with that stamp set. Really the only stamping I did on this was the little pull tags, and you can see how nicely that pulls out and slides back in very smoothly with the buildup that we did behind there. So, and again, we've got the sticker over here that grounds the airplane, and just some nice little embellishment clusters. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this layout today. I appreciate you taking the time to watch the full video, and I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about this nice adventure and letting me share my proud mama moments with you in my son's adventure over to Iceland as well. So thank you again, and don't forget to hit that like button down below. Add any comments or questions that you have, anything that I can help you with. I always love to read your comments and get back to you as well. So we'll be back next week with another fun layout to share with you. And until then, take care, and we'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.